Good to go.
Alive. We're live. Woohoo.
It's Edge Radio Australia. Malloy with you, enjoying the old afternoon here, sitting down with Mr. Whitaker. I've almost called you Travis. Sorry. I really am. I can't do that. Well, basically,
thank you, Mr. Malloy.
I'm here with my mate Derek. Is that better? Is that better?
Yeah, mate.
G'day, mate. It's all right. We've got other mates around. Okay, we're not completely mateless. It's all right. Outside, we have Shaquille, who's on his way in very, very shortly. And on the line, we should have Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, are you there? Okay, in complete silence. I'm going to assume there he is. Fantastic.
Can you hear me, though?
Ready, of course, to jump into it is the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. SHAK is back. What can I say? Let's jump straight into it. We've got a lot to cover today. So I think the elephant in the room is the one that's closing down. We've got a lot of names for this particular bank. No, I was actually talking about Bank West, but we'll go with that. Appreciate it, mate. There's nothing wrong with it's all self-denigration. It's okay. Let's talk about it though. Let's get straight into what Bank West is doing here. This is the bank that used to be the R&I, the Rural and Industrials Bank, the bank of farmers back in the day. If you can really go back.
That was the bank I went to as a kid. That's where mum and dad banked and that sort of stuff. And still
That shows how old you are, Aaron.
and still have accounts with them and that sort of stuff. And got the email from this week saying, hey, look, we're going to close all the branches around here. We're going to go completely digital here. And every branch should be shut down by October 2024. 15 regional banks are converting to CommBank branches. That kind of shows the agenda right there. Of course, CommBank, it's Commonwealth Bank, for those who are in the know. They own Bank West. They said they want to do that by the end of 2024, complete all of that. And as a result, all the ATMs that are Bank West ones are closing down. There'll be no longer operate off-premises ATMs. Machines will no longer be maintained following individual branch closures. We recognize that this may be difficult news if you or your loved ones bank in branch, or if you feel reassured knowing a branch is nearby. We're committed to supporting you through this change. This change will enable us to invest in the digital channels. A majority of our customers are increasingly choosing to do their banking with us. I'm reading off their website, bankwest.com.au.
Okay, you got the B and W around the wrong way, but never mind.
Okay.
All right. Look, as I say, someone who has, I banked with Bank West for many, many years, and, look, they held on to my money and certainly used enough of it back in the day to make more profits. I find this just deplorable. And when I look at the reasons why they're saying, and like talk about fiddle your stats, right? They've said basically the bank's usage has dropped down some massive number. I think it's 96% of transactions are now online based on the last 3 years. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but something happened in the last 3 odd years.
What happened?
I can't remember. It's coming. What was it again? Hang on. You shut the bloody earth down, okay? You shut it down. We couldn't go into the bank. So if you're basing the statistics, 96%, on the fact that people aren't going to the bank because you locked the bloody doors.
I think the intent here is that CBA have wanted to do this anyway.
Oh, no doubt.
And because what they did some time ago was say, we're not going to open any more new business bank accounts.
That's right.
Okay.
Remember that.
So that was from a strategic position, a silly position to do if you want to grow something, because business attracts more money coming through it. Obviously, the overheads to run a bank account for a business is more because they do more transactions than a mum and dad account or an everyday savings account. But I think this was intentional. This is all in the pipeline.
I thoroughly agree.
May I make the suggestion that every customer of Bank West, they've got nowhere to go, but when they do close their accounts and move their business elsewhere, to send an equally ridiculous letter to Bank West.
Yeah.
Say, go F yourself. We do want to support you during this difficult time.
It is difficult.
And we're supporting you by taking our money and telling you to go F yourself.
Well,
that's what I think you should do.
And should they take it to CBA?
Well, this is the problem. Look, there's got to be some alternatives. I don't know what they are.
I'll throw a couple.
There's got to be some alternatives. Yeah. But I actually, believe it or not, I actually think this is a good thing. Personally. Okay. No, bear with me. Because there's going to come a time when people will get fed up.
Yep.
And I don't know how bad it's actually going to get before they do, but surely there's going to come a time. Those people that have been part of the movements that you guys are part of, the freedom movement and all that, if you get rid of some of the crazies in that movement,
please, can we get rid of those?
This is the general consensus. People are sick of this. And I think that the more that big corporates are showing us their hand, the more that we can go, right, I don't want to do business with you. And surely somebody will come up with the grand idea of saying, what if, bear with me here because this is craziness now. What if we actually gave the people the types of services that they actually want?
What are you, some sort of conspiracy theorist?
Right?
Come on.
So if that happened, maybe I should do it. Maybe I should set a bank up.
Why the hell not?
But no, this is if that actually happened, I think that whoever does that first will end up with such an overnight success.
Are you talking about good old fashioned customer service?
Oh, exactly.
Is that what you're talking about?
With a call center that really sit down for this one, with a call center located in Australia. Oh my goodness! Could you imagine?
But no, I could not do this. No, I'm looking outside in Bombay.
This is overwhelming.
Yeah, throw the racist stuff my way. I'm ready for it. But like, okay, honestly, it makes me so angry. And I'll tell you something funny though: is Bankwest on Friday had to turn people away at the branches because there were so many people closing their accounts that they didn't have the staff to carry it. So literally as of Monday, they had to up their staff to it because there are so many people closing their accounts and pulling their cash out. So I'm saying, hey, I'm encouraging it. Run on the banks. Take all the cash you can.
But don't close your account. What you should do is pay the extra couple of dollars, just out of spite.
Right.
Pay the extra couple of dollars so that you get your statement sent to you through the post. And just leave 10 cents in there or something. Right. And every month, just deposit the amount you've got to deposit in fees.
Yep.
So they still have to send you out a bank statement just to mess with them.
Yeah. I like that.
Just send them an email. Like, thank you very much for the bank statement. I refer to it. Just some like long worded bullshit sort of letter. And just keep sending them stuff and just annoy the hell out of them. Yeah.
I don't know.
You can't take it in physically to drop it off. You got to mail it into this digital cosmos.
Yeah. No. Send it via registered post with a read receipt. With a read receipt. Somebody has to actually sign for it. Just to kind of
I like that.
I
like that.
Yeah.
I really that's absolutely magic. Well, I'm told, and I can't everybody do their own research because I don't know, but the one that I've been hearing, apparently an announcement was made from the PNN Bank, which is just so we can actually again backtrack a little bit. That's police and nurses. Okay, it used to be a credit society, and it became something else. Something else became Challenge Bank. It's all been all sorts of things.
They actually still are a credit union, by the way. I just want to make sure that people know that what happened was there was a restriction on the use of the word bank.
Gotcha.
And before you had to actually be a bank or an exception, like the blood bank had an exception. Otherwise, you had to be a credit union or a mutual society or whatever, and you weren't allowed to use the word bank, whereas now they are allowed to use them.
Okay.
And I strongly suggest that people look at some of those smaller banks.
Yeah.
Is there a difference? And I think people need to know this between a credit union and a normal bank. SHAK, you want to dive into that?
I think that's there is a difference theoretically, but for all intents and purposes, not really.
Well, in terms of the security of people's money.
Well, there's no difference on that.
Yeah.
I think the limits at the moment is 250,000 insured by the government.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, that I don't have a crystal ball here. I'm not a guru or a legal expert. This is just my opinion.
Yeah, with that skirt, mate, we're careful with crystal balls. But all right.
I don't think that I don't think that anybody would be left holding the bag.
So say that again, mate. Sorry, say it again.
So the limit, the guarantee, the government guarantee limit is 250,000. In my personal opinion, I can't see that if any Australian bank was to actually go down and you had $1 million in the account, I think the government would give you the money back.
You reckon?
Because I don't think they would want for there to be that kind of shock to the Australian system. We haven't had a bank failure in this country. I just don't see that happening. I don't think the depositors would ever lose. Having said that, government guarantees come with some issues, and I don't exactly, and I don't trust the banks. I mean, the whole reason why the banks originally were like, "Oh, don't keep your cash under your mattress, put it in the bank." Now we see governments are, in cahoots with the banks. We've seen things like Cyprus where they had a bail-in, things like that. So I don't know exactly where you should put your money, but don't trust it all with the banks. I mean, just look for other places to.
Well, I hear the place to keep your money is Balcatta. Apparently, no, this I don't know if this is satire or not, but it looked very legit. Okay, but I read on a news site a couple of days ago that they believe that the place that's got the most cash, the most notes being tucked away in Australia and in holes underground and all that sort of thing is Balcatta, Western Australia. So there you go.
Well, I think this has been going on for a while. I recently went on tour to the Perth Mint.
All right.
And the tour guide was telling us the story of how some early prospectors back in the 1800s came across a bit of a gold find.
Right.
And they were going to keep this secret to themselves. So they took the gold to the bank. They wanted to cash the gold in. And the bank, due to the amount of gold they found, and said, where did you find this? But we're not going to tell you, right?
Yep.
Obviously, they don't want to run on the gold mine.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So they said, well, if you don't tell us where it is, we're going to assume that you've acquired it through criminal activity.
Oh, you've got to be kidding.
And I thought, I sat there listening to this thinking, my, oh my, doesn't history repeat itself? Hey.
Oh.
So what did they do to avoid going and having criminal charges against them? They disclosed that it was a legitimate find. And overnight, of course, the word got out around those round tables that there was gold in such and such a place out near the gold fields, and then you had a gold rush. So it's history repeating itself. It's a kind of a presumption. Well, if you've made so much money, you must have done the wrong thing.
That's right. I mean, and Mark McGowan doesn't like competition when it comes to mixing gold, right?
Well, here's a question for you. A few years ago, I believe this happened while I was away from Western Australia. Rivers of Gold through WA. At the Perth Mint, I was just reading about it recently that they had to fulfill some contract or something happened, and they sent in some independent testers to test the quality of the gold. Yeah. What?
So what they needed was 0.9999, so 4 nines of purity, and apparently they had added a little bit of silver in that, of course, which is pretty common in that industry, and it was 0.9999. The problem was that in that contract, as I've understood it, is that they needed the 4 nines.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
In terms of the purity, with the deals they were doing with China.
So it is 4 nines in everywhere that I'm aware of, except for Dubai for some reason, which is 3 nines and a 5. But in any case, as far as I'm aware, and I'm sure somebody will fact check me and I'll probably be wrong, but as far as I'm aware, this is the only gold producing place that can actually put a stamp on something where it's actually guaranteed by a government. Everything else is private.
Right.
So, you know, when you go around, because I travel a lot and people ask me all the time, you know, you're from Western Australia, what do you know about the gold industry? I don't. That's not my specialty area.
Gotcha.
But when I mentioned I'm actually from Perth, everyone's like, "Oh, the Perth Mint, their gold's fantastic." There hasn't
not
really been
anymore
a question about the quality.
Well,
now
there is. But the thing is that something has happened here. How that's happened, like somebody has to be responsible for it. How did this happen?
Oh no, well, Mark McGowan's signature's all over it. That's the reality, and I tend to think, look, just a side note, but we all know about the fact that he stepped down not long ago, and Roger Crook has taken over. But the fact is, you've got. It's just how it is. But okay, and many people think, oh, he just want to spend time with his family. And my question is, when it comes to Mark McGowan, which one is it? Is it Shazza that you were sleeping with? Is it the woman that you've had a child with recently, or it is your family? So what a load of absolute rubbish. Okay, you've got 3 families on the go, mate. You've got no credibility with me. But no, we've also had the gold.
I take it you don't like the Labor Party very much. Is that what I'm hearing?
Look, I thought we were talking about banking.
We went from that to the former Premier sex. So
if I can have a dig, I'll have a dig.
Look, to be fair, if I'm going to follow your chain of logic, there,
but I'm still going on the logic.
If he's run off with all the gold, no wonder he's got Sheilas everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, you know.
It's not a gold bank. It's a sperm bank with Mark McGowan.
That's right. No, but there was okay. So what I'm getting at is there was rumors, and I just had to go there because that's me. But okay, there's rumors that he authorized the watering down effectively of the gold to make a Chinese deal, and the Chinese found out about it, and the Chinese are not pleased because Chinese have been funding the Labor Party for a very long time. So
a contract's a contract, right?
Yeah,
you have good business practice. If that's what's on the paperwork, then you honor the paperwork.
It appeared that Mark McGowan was actually ripping his bosses off.
I can't say. To be perfectly honest with you, look, obviously I don't agree with Labor Party policy, but without there being any credible evidence of that, I can't really imagine a premier doing that. And for what purpose? I mean, how would he have enriched himself by ripping off the Chinese? I mean, I don't see that as being a. I mean, if anything, I might believe it if you said to me, hey, look, he actually gave them 101% gold on the how. Maybe he gave them slightly bigger bars than what they were supposed to get because he was getting some sort of kickback. But why would you rip the Chinese off? No,
and it doesn't make any sense. No, and I don't understand. I mean, as I say, the Chinese, the CCP, not the Chinese people, the Chinese Communist Party, they pretty well run West Australia these days, with a couple of mining people, right? So, I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to. They've got such a grip on the Labor Party. So there's something going on there. There's something dodgy. And I don't know. I can't put my finger on it because I'm not right up on all the details. But, what I'm getting at is the fact that he has jumped ship at a very convenient time and very suddenly. Because he was very, very, very busy, and now he's on every board in town, right? So anyway, I think
there's more to it.
Yeah, I think there's more to it. I absolutely think there's more to it. But as far as when we're talking about gold, we're talking about Bank West here and closing it down. We're talking about West Australian institutions.
All right, well, let's put another spin on it. Let's say you bought a business, right? And it has been in competition to you in the past.
Yep.
You want to further the brand of the company that you've got rather than further the one that you've just bought out. So you've gotten rid of that competitor. Are you entitled to shut it down and to ruin it and all that sort of stuff and put it to the ground and you be the one that takes over later on?
That's as old as business.
Was that what the CBA is just done?
That's exactly
here?
what's happened. Exactly what's
right. So is CBA wrong in doing that? It's their choice. How much did they pay for Bankwest all those years ago?
Well, CBA is supposed to be the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. It is supposed to be the People's Bank, and clearly it's not.
Well, but this
hasn't been the People's Bank for years.
We talked about last time I was here. We talked about the issue with grocery stores and whether or not the prices are too high with their price gouging or not. And I think the consensus that we came up with was that what we need is more competition.
Absolutely.
I think that what we do need in this market in banking is for there to be more competition.
Yeah.
If the big banks legitimately feel, and I can understand, to be honest, if they legitimately feel that running branches in rural areas is just not a profitable thing for them to be doing, and they want to shut down, fine. But then communities should be able to say, actually, we live in wherever. There's enough people in this community to set a bank up.
Yep.
So let's set a bank up. And okay, maybe we've only got 2,000 customers.
It's fine.
Right? But it's a local branch. It's a very small bank. It has to comply with all the rules. Maybe that's something that we should see. And maybe that's something that public should be asking for is smaller institutions so that you actually get the service that you want. Because, hey, if you live in Merredin, why not be able to go to your local Merredin bank branch, which is or bank, which is owned collectively by the farmers in your area? I mean, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the solutions are, but
quite like the idea. I actually agree with that idea. I think that I remember in the 80s that there seemed to be a lot of banks. Okay, there seemed to be more, right? I mean, I remember Challenge. I remember,
Challenge got bought out again by Westpac.
There you go. I was about to say, I remember Westpac and the association there and all kind of thing. I remember maybe it's just a false perception. I was much younger then. I was, a teen. But yet there seemed to be a lot more variety in banks.
We used to have the 6 pillars of the financial industry in the Australian economy, which was the big 4 banks plus BT and Mercantile Mutual.
Yep.
Those 6 were not allowed to merge with each other, to buy each other out, etc.
Right.
Then that was reduced to 4. And so we know that BT, I believe, was bought by Westpac. And I think Mercantile Mutual was bought by NAB, I believe.
I think you're bang on.
Yeah. But yeah, look, I think that having that lack of variety, I think that hurts us. And I think we have to be very worried about that consolidation that we see across all of our major industries, because at the end of the day, this has utility value to us. And I think that we should be saying to government, we need to have less regulations to allow more competition into these areas. And it's the only way that we can stop these big banks or big corporations in this country from just taking over everything.
And at a very, very simple level. Okay. I think that I was having this conversation just a couple of days ago, and a friend of mine was saying, I love using the card. It's just more convenient. It's cleaner. I like it. And I get that. I absolutely get that. But there's a flip side to that. I said to her, okay, That's great and all, but you realize that someone's taking a cut every single time that you use it. So your money is getting less and less effective. You are basically, it is deflating in value. So that convenience, remember, you are paying for it. You are paying for it.
Well, you are. And the issue has become it's getting harder and harder to get the hands on the cash if that's what you want to use.
Of course.
Yes, it is more from the beginning, a little bit more inconvenient. You have to either go into the branch or you have to go to the ATM to get the cash to do what you want to do. But at the same time, what's in the back of my mind in all of this is what's going on in terms of what do the banks know that not leaking out to the general populace?
Social credit system, perhaps. I don't know.
So I think we've got to dig a little bit deeper. We are in the age of crypto.
Yep.
We are in the age of where there is a possibility of being, if you know what you're doing, the custodian of your own wealth. I'm finding the older generation don't want to know about it. I had a personal friend of mine ring me up in a bit of a panic or leave a late message the other night when we were all out, and I didn't hear it till quite late. Found out that I texted him as an emergency. It's okay, no, I can wait the next day. But it looked like he's been scammed by some crypto thing overseas. Thankfully, he lost a small amount of money at risk, and we were coming up with a strategy to kind of recoup that and kind of get them to a point where the offenders were without excuse to do that, to define whether they are a scam or not. Okay. He just didn't want to do it, and that's fine. I respect that. Okay. I said, look, the good thing is you haven't lost tens of thousands of dollars. Sure. It's manageable what you've done, but you've got to. There is a bit of education for those going down that path to actually know what they're doing. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think some of the older generation go, "Oh, too hard. I don't want to."
Well, it's not going to happen. Let me tell you that right now.
What's not going to happen?
Well, the whole idea that people are going to go to crypto and be subject to scams is not going to happen. The reason why they want these scams to occur,
of course they do,
because that way people are going to do what people always do. But they're going to go crying to government and say, "Government, you're going to regulate this," and that's how they're going to come in. See, that's the thing. The banks aren't going to do this by force. The governments. I know I sound like some tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist maniac here.
Sure,
but they don't do it by forcing it on you. They do it by having you go to them and say, "I want you to do this for me," and that's what ends up happening.
It's like any good relationship.
But what
a woman
I'm saying,
will explain, she'll actually convince you that it was your idea. I get it.
Yeah. It was my idea for you to take all my money and the kids and run off. Yeah,
that
was my idea. It's brilliant.
What I'm saying is this: that the banks are going to use this technology.
They are.
All right, they're going to use that technology because it's going to cut a lot of their costs in terms of administration, right? So it's either you get in the game and do it as the banks do, or do you let them do it for you?
But that's the whole thing. See, if the banks embrace this technology, what ends up happening is that people don't need the banks as much anymore.
Correct.
Right. And you've already got these sort of, e-banks or these like virtual banks and stuff like that exist that allow people to have like Wise and some of these sorts of companies that allow you to have sort of an online thing and you've got hold multiple currencies and all that sort of stuff. The banks aren't going to want to lose market share. So they're going to try and crush all of those other groups so that they've got the exclusivity over this. But what's the solution here? I think really you'd have to look at having an alternative currency that can actually hold its value over time. And I don't know what that looks like.
Something's got to be gold-based or something based in something that's
but the problem is if we go back to a gold-based system, then it's subject to the supply and demand pressures of gold. I think looking towards the future, whilst gold has been a great thing for us to have used throughout history, it's been really the main thing that we've used. Fiat currency has all sorts of issues with it. Mostly, I think, trust because of inflation eroding its value.
Sure.
I'm not sure what an alternative is. Is it a commodity-based currency? Is it something else? I don't know. But certainly I think we should be looking towards the future and not looking back to something like gold.
Challenge the notion that a lot of the industry, the banking industry, the financial industry does, and that is of scarcity, supply and demand. I actually think there is a more abundance of gold than they'll make out.
No doubt about that. I mean, that's the case with diamonds. Diamonds are quite common, apparently. It's just the supply of diamonds is not common.
So I think that's pushed and manipulated a lot of the prices in the past. That notion of, hey, this is scarce, therefore, but that price has been manipulated by the banks in terms of the gold price.
I'm scarce, but I don't issue my own currency, call it the dollar of SHAK, and then expect people to accept it. Although if any of our viewers are willing to, I'm happy to issue
Absolutely.
it.
I'm
SHAK
open.
bucks.
I'm open.
SHAK bucks. That's it.
Maybe just, I don't know. We'll just call them sharks. I don't know. Speaking of that, though, what about dollar value of Bitcoin at the moment? It hit a new high.
It has. It reached the $100,000 mark as far as Australian dollars are concerned.
Okay.
And
It's
it's
about
gone
14
beyond that.
US, $14 US. Yeah.
I think the last I looked at it was about 100. It was floating between 102, 104,000 Australian dollars. Yeah, interesting space. That it's kind of been expected that it would do that. There are those who are saying that it'll also go to 100,000 US. It's an interesting space. This. Yeah, what can you say? It's
We'll watch this space.
Well,
maybe,
its adoption is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. Cryptocurrency is becoming more and more standardized, accepted. It's not seen as fringe anymore.
Sure. I think once believe it or not, I think once they attach it to a debit card, that's going to be when it gets mass sort of use. It'll open up.
Well, they've already started doing that.
They have.
But one of the issues that was brought up to me by somebody I call my sort of guru, my whiz kid, who had said to me that he uses all sorts of different cryptos, and that what he was doing was he was borrowing Australian dollars against the value of the crypto.
Right.
For those of you that know a little bit about taxes, when you borrow money against an asset, it's not a taxable event. But apparently, there was a ruling made by the Australian Taxation Office that they would deem that to be a constructive sale, and you'd have to pay capital gains tax, even though it's a loan. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work then, because then when you do go to repay the loan, do you then get a rebate? I'm just not sure how that works, but I'm very surprised it hasn't been challenged. I'm really surprised it hasn't been challenged. It indicates to me that just by the stroke of a pen, if they can't get you directly, they'll do it some other way.
No doubt about it. Look, and it comes down to crypto. Is it currency or is it an asset, right? I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah, and that's what I have a really hard time with. When people have asked me in the past, what do you think of Bitcoin? I'm like, what the hell is this Bitcoin? It's going to be worth 20 cents. Well, what did I bloody wrong? But the thing was,
I thought $4,000 Bitcoin was expensive.
Yeah, exactly. I remember those days, and I remember somebody saying to me, "Well, why don't you just put 10 grand in or something? Just for a laugh. You'd put that on a horse race. At least my horse got a chance at winning. I'm not betting on these digital. What is it? And again, I couldn't understand. Is it a currency? Is it an asset?
Yeah.
What's its purpose? What the hell does it do? And so I never did. Well, that 10 grand I think would be worth like 80 million or something.
Yeah. Yep. Easy.
So, I should have bought that Powerball ticket.
But you can't live life like that when you're in the
No, you can't. You can't. But this is the thing. I don't know. Is there a saturation point in the crypto market? I mean, how many new cryptos can just keep being developed? And
well, to my mind, I think it'll end up like being like the banks. I think they'll end up being 4 major ones, and that's it. And I think the rest will peter away. That's my thought.
Well, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because you could then see the reverse fragmentation before the Reserve Bank in the United States started up in 1913, and prior to the greenbacks and all that sort of stuff, each bank in America actually issued its own currency, and it was subject to things like fraud and counterfeiting and etc. But then they decided to have a standardized currency. So the idea of the digital space is kind of acting like the Wild West. Before, where banks could issue their own currency, and then its value would be determined by whether people accepted them or not, and at what value they'd accept them. So this is interesting because it has, in a funny kind of way, it's actually put competition into that market.
What I've been doing researching lately is there is a project that is providing the liquidity for whatever currency people want to trade in.
Okay.
So in cross-cultural payments and cross-border payments, I should say, if you want to let's say Shaquille wants to pay you the value of 100,000 Australian, and you want to receive that in US dollars, whatever.
Yep.
This project can match those across the blockchain. So that you receive the amount that you should in your currency, you're giving the amount that you should in your currency without this 2, 3, 4 day time
window,
frame where those currency values can change.
Okay. I want to say this: if you feel like that, I'm open to it.
I'm worried about what it is, Derek, that you think Aaron could have possibly done for me that I'm going to give him this money. But again, what you've just expressed there, though, I still get quite confused by this because I'm not sure what problem that solves. I mean, you can go to currency dealers or we all know through certain brokers that you can just transact. I mean,
but it gets rid of a lot of admin costs. It gets rid of a lot of liquidity issues as well.
What liquidity issues are there in the FX market, especially the Aussie US?
Well, okay, let's say I go overseas and I bring back, I don't know how many Indonesian rupiahs, right? And I want to transfer that into Aussie dollars, or I want to go to Indonesia and I want those rupiahs in cash here in Australia. It's too difficult to do, right? Which local branch has, $10,000 worth of rupiahs that they can give me before I go on the plane and go?
But you didn't say cash. You said that they were going to settle these transactions through the blockchain by finding matching people.
Correct, but if you have your own digital wallets, SHAK, if you have your own digital wallets, it's easier to access that across borders as well. All you need to do is being hooked up to the internet or online.
Yeah,
as I understand it.
So maybe you're right. Yeah. I don't know. I accept what you're saying. I just on the surface, I can't see the.
Let's go bigger then. Let's go on a bigger scale. So let's say a big mining corporation wants to pay $10 million to
Aaron,
to a trucking industry that creates certain trucks for them to mine over here, right? Yep. And they need to do that. They need to do it quickly. Those cross-border payments are done a lot more efficiently and in seconds, as opposed to days.
But that's the whole thing. It doesn't take days in the first place, unless it's taking days because of regulations that have been put there because corporations and people have asked for them to be. So this is the thing, like there are ways to get around it already. You can already get around it. The blockchain may be able to do that cheaper than the existing ways of doing it, but I'm just, and again, because I know I'm a technophobe, I'm really lost to see.
The blockchain can also authenticate that transaction. It's there. It's there for people to watch,
and it's transparent.
And audit.
How much
it can be audited?
How much fraud do you think there would be between BHP trying to make a payment to, I don't know, TNT? Do you know what I mean? Again, I think I'm not trying to shit all over cryptos. There's obviously a future in them. I just really struggle to see when people say to me, it's got this benefit, that benefit. I don't understand it. And people say to me, okay, well, what about micropayments? You're sending money to Africa, and I want to send $10 to Africa, and now it's a lot cheaper. Yeah, it is. But when they try to get the money out, they try to convert it from a crypto back into real currency, they've got to pay fees. So when people say, oh, well, this FX transaction is going to be cheaper in your digital wallet, yes, it is, but only if you're going to keep it all digital and spend it digitally. As soon as you want to convert it back into a fiat currency, which is more widely accepted, you've got to pay the fees.
But what this is saying, this project that I'm alluding to, is saying that it can match whatever fiat currency you want, if that's what it is, right? It can match even a CBDC.
Oh, so it hasn't got the conversion.
It doesn't have to do that, but it matches that exactly to whatever value you want. So if you want to receive it in fiat, you can receive it in fiat. If you want to receive it in crypto, you can receive it in crypto. This kind of project.
Oh, I think the easy answer for this is, SHAK, if you could just watch maybe the Crypto Hour of Power. It's Tuesday at 1 o'clock on Edge Radio Australia. Can help you out. You never know, right? Powered by Orange Brick Road now. Right, come on.
Was this our friend that said boo and then had to clarify that he wasn't booing at us? He was trying to scare us.
The one.
All right, I'll make an effort to watch your show.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic show. It really is. And I mean, every week I'm learning more and more. It is to me, because I came in when it came to crypto, I was obviously it's that magic internet money. I didn't feel the trust and whatever, and I still am hesitant purely and simply because I'm hesitant with most financial decisions. I like to think about before I go and do it. But no, honestly, it's very eye-opening. And the more information, whatever system it is, whether it's fiat, whether it's crypto, whatever it happens to be, the more education you've got, the better decision you can make. So easy peasy. All right.
Do we have any questions from our viewers? It's been very quiet today.
We haven't heard very much. Travis has been in charge of that, and I haven't seen Travis on the screen for quite some time.
No.
No, I'm still here. You guys were going for it, so I didn't want to interrupt. So because it was really interesting. So a couple of things just regarding the space where crypto is going to land in the future. I think the CBDCs are inevitable. We can't stop it. If the government says we're going to use it, we're going to end up using it. I think that's where crypto's really don't fall into their own. They're going to be effectively the cash of today. So it's just one of those tough ones. It's going to be hard, and I think people really do need to learn how to use the new digital cash, if you will.
Yep. Okay. You've brought that point up before, and I didn't actually agree with you at the time, but I think you might be onto something, to be absolutely frank. I'd love to keep cash alive. I really, really would. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, but the issue is there, isn't it? That when we switched from gold to cash, we go back in time.
Yep.
And then we switched off the gold standard thanks to Nixon and the end of World War II. People are like, well, what's this piece of paper then?
So can I wind the clock back? You said, okay, we knew Nixon obviously closed off the gold standard, right?
Yeah.
72?
73.
72. Why do I always think it's 70? Maybe because I'm a 72. Maybe that's what it is. But okay, you said about the end of World War II. So what's the link there? I'm sorry.
Well, what had happened, without boring everybody with economic history, what basically had happened was the US, the Bretton Woods system had basically what the major currencies of the world had agreed to do was to peg their currency to the US dollar, and the US dollar was redeemable for gold.
Sure.
There was obviously more cash in existence than there was gold, but that's what had happened. But
okay.
Because it was at a fixed price, what happened was that people were actually able to acquire US dollars for less than their actual value. Okay. So this was brilliant for a lot of these countries.
Absolutely.
Then it wasn't so good when the reverse happened, when all of a sudden people went, actually those US dollars are overpriced. Let's get rid of them.
Right.
And so the French, being French, said, nah, and just started dumping all of this US currency and trying to get gold. And the rest of the world said, we should do the same, actually. And so all of a sudden you had this massive outflow of gold from the US, and Richard Nixon said, no, I'm just going to suspend all that. No more gold for you lot.
Really?
So on the bottom of US currency, it actually used to say redeemable on demand for gold or silver or whatever.
Yeah, I've seen some old notes that had that on there.
Yeah, okay, and this was a promissory note, whereas now it's not. Now, I understand why people say this, but people say that currency now has no value at all. It's not entirely true. I understand why they're saying it. People say the banks are just conjuring up money out of thin air.
Let us print it. Yeah.
Yeah, which again is sort of true, sort of not. I think, in a more abstract way, it's not true, but I'm not going to bore you all with monetary theory. But look, an alternative that people actually have some trust in, I think, is important. And at the end of the day, why do we have inflation? When you look back and you say, somebody showed me a food menu from the US from like the 50s, and it was like a Big Mac was like 5 cents or something.
Yeah.
So why do we have inflation the way that we have, and why do people think it's a good idea?
Well, Derek, you're the expert. Why do we have inflation?
Why do we have inflation? Well, again, why do we have it recently? Oil prices were demanding that they were getting more costly to move. That had an ripple effect across the nations in terms of businesses, how they do and cross borders and that sort of stuff.
I wasn't actually really genuinely asking you for help, but I appreciate that. Maybe we should do something like that one day.
But we talk about it, right? It's like a woman. You just cannot keep them happy, right? Well, certainly that's been my experience with them. Right? They complain there's not enough inflation.
Yeah.
Right. That was the complaint for the last 10 years, that inflation was just too low.
I never understood that.
Exactly. Then all of a sudden inflation goes too high. And then you say to people, okay, well, do you want prices to go down? Do you want deflation? Because everyone's complained that everything's gone. Yeah, of course you're happy, Inferno, but if I knew you in person, you probably wouldn't be, because I tend to have that effect on females, apparently. But people don't want prices to come down. Like even right now, people actually don't want prices to come down. That's the whole thing. Like people complain about, the cost of living going up. But I think if you actually ask them, I don't really think people want prices to come down. They just want their money to go up. Now,
everybody who's owning houses at the moment don't want that deflation.
No way.
Exactly. Yeah. So what will end up happening, though, if inflation was to continue on, our grandkids, or if I ever have any children, their children, by the time they go to buy a house in Balcatta, it'll be $30 million for a 2-bedroom house.
That's right.
Yeah. But they'll all be earning $1 million a year.
No, but okay, but if you talk,
because wages haven't increased over the last
exactly.
decades.
And if you look at
wages haven't.
If you look at a wage, you look at the wages of say my parents, for sake, okay, and you look at the proportion of their wages per year compared to the price of the house, the ratio is completely different now, completely different.
But that's my whole point. That's the issue. Exactly. People complain about that all the time, right? You get these old people, when I was a kid, I was able to work at McDonald's, 1 hour a month and put myself through university. It's like, you can't do that now, right? We've got more people.
Yeah.
Housing prices have gone up. And people say, it's like Travis will say, well, they should just release more land and they should build more houses. Yeah, it sounds good. We all pretend that that's what we want. But if you own houses, you don't want that.
No.
If you own your own home, that's the last thing you want is for the government to come in and make it easy for other people to get houses, which therefore decreases the amount of buying pressure on your property. Who wants that to happen?
The other extreme is then, you have more homelessness, you have more crime, you have more people who are doing things to steal.
Yep.
And then your value of your neighborhood goes down because you've got crime on the streets now. Nobody wants to live there.
Right. And see, again, this is why I say to people, you take a political position. I don't care if you're on the left or you're on the right. The politicians are full of shit. Okay. The right wingers will say, hey, no problems. We'll just lock them up, increase sentences. That'll solve that issue. The left wingers go, well, no, we can't do that. We're going to show them love and just let the crime rates go up. Right. And then what do? Well, you're rich. You go, okay, well, fine. I'll take car services. I'll do all these other things, which creates jobs. You can't win with this. But what I'm saying is that people are looking for a solution from government. And just in my experience with government, right, I can't keep women happy. I certainly can't keep government happy. And what I've worked out is I shouldn't rely on either.
No,
right?
No, okay.
Yeah.
You need to take into your own hands.
I will say for the women that are watching, thinking I'm on some chauvinistic thing, I'm not being chauvinistic. If you guys had $1 for every time I was chauvinistic, you'd have about 77 cents.
Oh dear.
Do the math on that.
I won't be around for the show again, will I? That's it. That's my appearance.
That is one of the worst statements you've ever made. Full stop. But okay, you know what? Here's the thing: we're all adults here. And before we were talking about the votes, right? But the votes from these referendums, this and that. When people get to go in there and privately vote on what they really think, okay? And we're all sick of this woke crap. Everyone's sick of this woke crap. Yeah, there's one really simple word when it comes to woke. It's no. You just keep saying no. Now, why I mention that is because we've just said about we're making the sexist jokes or the whatever, misogynistic stuff. It's a joke. And remember when we used to be able to just pull a mickey out of each other and we all got along. I think all of us want that back, okay? Now, I don't want people being rude to others, but, okay, I expect to be able to make a mother-in-law joke. I expect that, okay? I expect that someone's going to make a fat joke about me or a bald joke, right?
I think I've already made I've ticked all those boxes today, haven't I?
You had me at hello right at the door. But that's friendship, right? And that's good relationships when you're able to be comfortable with each other. And in a world where you can't make silly jokes about gender or whatever, that takes so much of our power away. So,
look, I agree, and I expect people to take the piss out of me. I'd be disappointed if they don't. I mean,
damn right.
There's certainly enough material there,
But in your shirt alone, boom, boom.
All right, Ducky boy. But no, look, I think again, I think that people are relying too much on government to try to solve all these problems and not recognizing the government was originally probably the cause of these problems.
That's right.
But I think people have to think things through a little bit. So I'm more of a libertarian kind of person. I think government should not be around, go away, leave me alone. But I think you've got to be pragmatic enough to understand that if there really wasn't a government and we didn't have safety regulations and we didn't have all these things that we take for granted, that may not necessarily be the kind of world you want to live in.
I don't.
The Wild West.
Right? No, I don't agree. I was just driving down the road the other day and I see all of the protective gear and all that kind of carry on stopping the workers, like all of this just over the top.
Absolutely.
Enough.
That's too much.
Yeah.
But the flip side is what? That you shouldn't have any?
No. So you balance. Life is about balance, right?
Exactly.
Okay? And we don't have.
But how would you balance that?
Well,
see, the question is, do we want government to do it? Or people, for example, they say, oh, one of the great things that the unions did was in America was to bring around the 40-hour working week. Okay. But that's not true. at all.
No.
Henry Ford brought that out, and he brought it out to be competitive because he wanted workers. Right, so that was
8-hour shifts because he was running 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So he's running 8, 8, and 8.
But he wanted workers, so he introduced the 40-hour work week to compete with other employers to attract the staff. So left to their own devices, a private enterprise, I think, can deliver things. But I think that also left to their own devices, private enterprise can sometimes be predatory. And so you do need to have, as you said, that balance. But I think that balance has to be driven by people and not by government, because government just makes a pig's breakfast of it.
Completely agree. All right, I think we should pivot a little bit here because we are running low on time. Do we have any other subjects you'd like to hit?
While you're talking about government, that apart from apparently losing about 500 what they call nuisance tariffs on imported goods.
Okay.
To help with the cost of living, so to speak, right? Things like toothbrushes, washing machines, fridges fall under all of these unilateral tariff reforms that the government is boasting the last 2 decades. And starting from July 1, they're going to scrap it across a range of imported goods. I mentioned the toothbrushes, fridge and dishwashers, pajamas, toasters, ballpoint pens, and menstrual and sanitary products. So they reckon that will streamline it. About $8.5 billion worth of annual trade. I always find it funny how the government tries to get points on those kind of items.
But why are they listing all of that?
Yeah.
And also, if we can create, look, not that I'm an expert on women, as we get,
that's a whole other show.
but are we importing that? Are we? I mean,
we used to make our washing machines here. No,
I'm talking about sanitary
products. Of course.
Well, we make our own toilet paper here. I mean, surely that the process couldn't be that much more complicated. We can't make it here.
No, of course we can. Okay, but basically, to make an extra, quarter of a cent on every 1,000, they outsource it to China.
Yeah, but again, why are we making toilet paper here? We should be outsourcing that as well.
Well, that'll be next week.
Yeah, probably.
That's pretty much how things are going.
I will say on sanitary items, which is a different argument, but I think that they should remove the GST on it, remove all sales taxes on it. Why any government in their right mind thinks it's a good idea to tax something that only one gender or 99 gender? I take it back. Don't cancel me. But only those that are biologically female at birth and before birth are going to require. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, a point that I just saw on the screen a moment ago came through a Facebook user. Unfortunately, sorry, I can't see your name. But at the moment, the government seem to be over governing us, right? And I think that there we go. Thank you, Damo. Thank you, Damo. I think it's a big issue. I really do, and I think that on all of these levels, that's what we're having.
They are over governing us, but in some of the places where we want them to be more involved, they're not. But just to come back to what I was going to say about this, like, what are we in bloody cuckoo land? Hang on. The Labor Party, Albanese, is removing tariffs. He doesn't just have one tax he doesn't like. There's 500 different taxes that the federal Labor Party is getting rid of. I'm calling bullshit. There is something else going on.
Of course, forgive
my skepticism.
Exactly. They're moving those things around, and I'll tell you, I'm obviously a car guy, very passionate about my cars. I look at the price of cars. Cars didn't drop. We didn't lower the import taxes and tariffs and all that sort of thing on the cars that were, all those tariffs were there to protect our local industry, an industry that was destroyed, okay?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, right? These tariffs are probably so minuscule that the effect that they're going to have would be, how does it say how much it's going to save Australians?
$1.5 billion in revenue.
Okay. And look,
how much does that equate to everybody's
on GDP?
No, on everyone's pocket. How much per capita?
Let me get back to you.
So here's the thing, right? 1.5 billion.
Hang on. According to 2020 Productivity Commission report, the administration costs of collecting tariffs cost businesses between 11 million to 20 million per year. So it's not even the billions.
Okay.
Tariffs are applied to a small number of imports, with nearby 90% of importers entering Australia duty-free.
Look,
so we have an economy. The GDP of this country is approximately $1.5 trillion. And the Labor Party has, to ease the cost of living pressures, has saved some small businesses 20 million. Is that
20 to 30?
Thanks, Labor Party.
Do you know what? Well, do you know what the money's for? The money's to pay for his wedding. But never mind, right?
When's the election?
Look,
Oh, you know what? I do have to give it to him, though, actually.
Really?
I'll give it to him on that, right? Like Grover Cleveland, my age, married a 21-year-old, had his honeymoon at the White House. I mean, good on you, mate. Well done. So Albo sit there going, look, what are we going to do for our wedding? I'll tell you what, wait till I become the Prime Minister. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a unique experience.
For the sake of the country, God, I wish you were still engaged and forever, because he has been the weakest, most pathetic. He has surpassed who I personally thought was the poorest Prime Minister we've ever had, and that's Gillard. Gillard was just the social policies of Gillard. That woman is a war criminal, right? And the damage she did, and the stabbing in the back, and just the
what damage did she do?
Oh,
well, the NDIS. I know the NDIS is abused now, but when she first brought it out, that was reasonable, no?
No, because it's been a scam the whole time. The last word, it's not scheme, it's scam when it comes to NDIS, right?
And having a carbon tax?
Pardon? Carbon tax, that went well.
It wouldn't have been a fantastic idea.
Oh, perhaps. Okay. I've got nowhere to go on that. Nowhere.
You don't want to tax the air that you breathe?
Oh, look. Jeez. I pay enough for it. All right. Guys, we're going to have to end the show. So, I thank you very, very much for everything. And as I've always said, mate, this is your show. So if you'd like to close with anything, if there's some subjects you'd like, if you'd like to get a word in edgewise, that'd be great. No worries.
Look, it's been fun. And that's the thing. Learning should be fun.
It should be.
Finance should be fun. Business should be fun. Investing should be fun. Have fun. Have fun learning. And enjoy the experience rather than feel like, where do I start? And overburdened with all this information.
You actually coined a phrase which I really enjoy about money. And what do you call it?
Wasn't my coining. A guy called Wes Hone when I did his business course on marketing. But money is happy tickets.
Happy tickets.
Yeah.
I like that.
I want to address something that one of our viewers, I think it was David, but I'm not sure, said on the screen there that tariffs were originally brought in to make imports more expensive in order to help domestic manufacturers. Yeah. It's a good in theory. The problem is that the countries that we import from, that we export to, are then going to put another tariff on it. It just doesn't do anything. Tariffs just haven't been an effective way of doing that. I was actually quite surprised that we still had 500 of them. But yeah, I said a few weeks ago or a few months ago, whatever it was when I was here, get out of the system, have some things, some investments and things outside. That's what I say. Not everybody can just up and move to another country, but look for other places to locate a business, holding companies, all that sort of stuff, and just spread yourself out a little bit and try not to get too stressed out about things. Because look, although we feel like we're over-governed, there's many times back in history that it was a lot worse. World War II, rationing, conscription, all the stuff that Albo wants to bring back, right? So
I don't know. I think 2020 and 2021 were pretty bloody close.
Oh, I don't know. Would you rather live through that, or would you go back and you watch videos of them teaching the kids to go under the school tables because a nuclear bomb could go off?
Yeah.
You know, we've had some pretty.
Look,
bad
not even that far in the past. In the 80s, they were still showing videos about how to prepare for a nuclear war. It was a big thing. Like I remember it well.
Hide under your school desk may not have been such a good idea, but we've had all sorts of different things that have
ducked for cover, Johnny.
That have challenged us as human beings over the period of time. So, I know that depression rates are up and people are struggling, and it's very hard to look back. Oh, they had it worse, so things are good now. I know people are struggling, but try not to get too overwhelmed.
Yeah,
have a whinge about government, like I always do. But don't let it consume you. Just focus on yourself, focus on your family, get yourself ahead. Try and build a better future for your children. Things will fall into place.
Don't buy into the fear.
Don't buy into the fear. Put a smile on your face. When none of us are getting out of here alive, so we may as well enjoy our ride while we're here, right? Thank you very much online there, Travis. You've disappeared again. I know you're there behind the screen, but I appreciate your input and your tech support today. Really fantastic. Thank you to everybody who's been watching online and put their comments forward. Really appreciate it. You are the reason we do that. So please get out there, share. You know what? Copy the links, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Instagram, put it wherever you like. Within reason. And have a wonderful week. We'll catch you next week for The Greater Wealth. You're on Edge Radio Australia.